Welcome back to the Unbearables podcast. I'm Jack Cowart, and I'm here with...
Brandon Ruiz.
And today we're going to be looking at the Jake Paul versus Ben Askren boxing fight, the recent NFL trades affecting the first round of the draft, and we're also going to be reviewing the Chicago Bulls and their performance over the past few weeks.
And I just want to say, the Bulls have been pretty bad, so it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Once we get there. But we're going to be starting today with the Jake Paul versus Ben Askren boxing fight. If you haven't heard about this, I envy you. So, Brandon, tell me how you feel about this fight.
So basically, I don't know if the fight was fixed. I don't know. There's a little. I have a little bit of a suspicion that it was, but I can't say for sure. I watched some different angles of how Ben Askren was kind of how he got up and how he was wobbling a little bit, whatever. But to me, it seemed way too premature to call that fight. If you obviously know by now, but Jake Paul knocked Ben Askren out, if that's what you can call it, I guess. But it seemed kind of premature to call the fight to me, just because when you look at the fight between Jake Paul and Nate Robinson, they let Nate Robinson walk around all dazed. They should have called the fight way sooner, right? Now here's a professional fighter who might have been a little shaken up, but he got up really quickly after he got knocked down. He got up really quickly, said he was good to fight multiple times to the ref. The ref apparently said no and called the fight immediately. To me, if you're looking at how one fight was refereed and how the other one was, it just seems like those don't align. It just doesn't seem right. I've never seen that before. However, I haven't really seen that many YouTube boxing matches, so I don't really know exactly how those go.
Yeah, so in terms of the fight being called, it's tough because what I saw live, it seemed to me like after Askren got back up, it was pretty quick, but he looked really out of it to me and like legitimately wobbly. So I could see in good faith a referee saying, "Dude, you can't fight." However, as far as I'm aware, there is like an actual list of things that referees need to be checking for, like commissioned by the sports authorities and whatnot. And it didn't seem to people more knowledgeable than me about this that Askren met those conditions. And another thing is that, as far as I'm aware, that referee is not actually part of an athletic commission. So that sort of puts a credibility issue on the entire fight. Not that it wasn't a good knockout or knockdown, because it was, but the referee, if he's not a part of the athletic commission, what's the point, you know?
Yeah, what I will say is Jake Paul is technically sound. He's a technically sound boxer. The way he throws his punches, it's the right way to throw a punch, and he threw a good punch and he knocked Ben Askren down. Yeah, but I didn't know about the referee. I didn't know that the referee is not tied to any athletic commission, so that kind of makes me even more skeptical of the situation. And yeah, I mean, watching the fight, the reason why I said I've never seen anything like that is because I've seen boxers be dazed and the refs let it keep on going, so many times. And so for the ref not to let it keep on going after one knockdown, I could see it if he got knocked down immediately right after, and then he goes, you know what? And he gets back up and he's still really wobbly. I personally didn't think he was that wobbly, but I could see where people thought that. But at the end of the day, that's just not something that normally happens. You know what I'm saying? And so it just, that reeks of being fixed to me. And that reeks of you're going to make fans lose, you're going to lose your credibility over something like this. Fans are not going to trust you anymore. You're going to lose the fans' trust. And I just think that that's an issue. People paid for this. You got to make them trust that this is all real.
Yeah, right. And if it wasn't fixed, let's look at it that way. If it wasn't fixed, Ben Askren treated the fight basically like a joke, and that's totally fine for him to do, I guess, because he went in, he picked a fight, he got paid, and it didn't take very long. So good for him. But people are trying to claim after this fight that Jake Paul has any credibility at all in the world of boxing. And I find that completely baffling because he hasn't fought a real boxer yet.
Yeah, so I don't understand why people think that he's like a real boxer right now. He hasn't fought anybody. He hasn't fought any real boxers. He's fought people that have never stepped foot in a ring like professionally. But for some reason everyone's saying, "Well, now you know for sure he's the real deal, but he has to fight a real boxer to be for sure." I'm
Right.
thinking, which one is it? You got to pick a side. You can't say he's for sure a real boxer and then say, "Well, he has to fight a real boxer." I honestly don't think he is he should even be considered a professional boxer right now. I really don't, because he hasn't fought a professional boxer. At the end of the day, I feel like that makes sense.
Yeah, like you see this all the time in combat sports. Guys get their records inflated against pretty easy opponents. So maybe I'm not giving him enough credit. Maybe he wants to fight a real boxer and, actually make a legitimate name for himself. But I don't know if I believe that because Jake Paul, I'm not going to make any statements about the kind of person he is. However, the job that he does is entertainment. He has been in the entertainment business technically for many years. And
Yeah.
if he wants to continue to go down this route, picking fights with non-boxers, and it was entertaining. Like I'm not a Jake Paul fan, but I like that knockdown was legitimately clean and like made me go, oh damn, like it was fun.
I was surprised. I was surprised when he threw that punch and it knocked Ben Askren down. It was a good punch, you're right. It was a technical punch, like he threw the jab, and then a lot of people use that to kind of as a guiding punch to where you're gonna throw the hook, and he did it. He landed it. He landed it right in his jaw, and it worked out. But one thing I want to comment on before I go any further about the actual fight, I liked how you said he's been in the entertainment industry technically.
Right, yeah.
Well, no, just because because you're like, well, he's maybe not entertaining me. That's how I took it, technically entertainment, if you can call it that.
Oh, 100%. Like Jake
Yeah.
Paul, not my cup of tea.
Yeah, but if the fight was real, it is kind of weird just because, like you said, Ben Askren did come into the fight super out of shape. And maybe he came super out of shape just because he didn't take Jake Paul seriously, which could definitely be the case. I would not put that past Ben Askren because you are a professional fighter and maybe you think, oh, what is this guy? I've been punched by so many professional fighters. Can this guy really hit me harder than I've been hit, before? He probably thought probably not, and so maybe he just decided to take it easy, which I think is a little weird, but I don't know. He could have went that route, but he could also went, this is a fixed fight, I'm just getting paid, and this just in Triller's eyes will boost the sales of the next fight, because I think what they're trying to do is they know that people want to see Jake Paul lose. They know that, and so they're really working with that. So I think they want him to win. So I think there's a high possibility that the fight was fixed, because if he wins, then they sell again for the next pay-per-view. But if he loses, they lose him as a fighter, and he brings in some of the most money for them, So why would they not want him to win?
Right.
That's why I kind of feel like, and I kind of feel like it's just a show. I know it is in some sense it is an event, so it is a show. But look at how many musical events they had. I can't even count. Like I don't even remember. There was way too many.
There were at least 6 mini concerts during the whole night there.
It seemed like to me that this was some type of music festival with boxing on the side. Like boxing was the sideshow, and it was billed as the main event.
Wow, yeah, I think you're right about that because they spent there was at least a 40-minute gap between fights at one point just for music and random interviews and slap fights hosted by Ric Flair. Like what?
Yeah, I mean, I believe I could be wrong, but I do believe that there was a time where it was over an hour, like an hour 30 even maybe,
Christ.
because the people I was in the room with, they were waiting for the next fight, and I believe someone says, "Man, it's been over an hour and a half already." That's too long. That's way too long. And also, just to put it out there, I'm not gonna try to just go off on Triller, but the sound engineers, whoever worked that show, were pretty bad. Like it wasn't. That was not good. I mean, I just think if you're gonna do something like that, it would be better if you get 2 or 3 really good acts and you get it done as well as you can, and just leave it at that. Because if there's a bunch of half-ass stuff, I don't know how else to say it, it just makes the show worse. And people paid for this. Like I said, they want a good product. Like you want quality over quantity a lot of times when you pay for something like this.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I mean, that's my opinion, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't want to go too hard, like you said, because Triller is in the money making business. They're putting out a product, and I suppose their number one goal is to make money, not necessarily to make out a good product. But like you said, I wouldn't want to pay for that product again, and there's no indication that their next big event won't just be the same thing.
Yeah, I believe, though, if they're smart, they'll realize that they overcorrected a little bit. Because I feel like the Mike Tyson event was far better than this event, even in terms of commentary, the interviews. It just seemed like there was not that much talking when the fights were actually going on about the actual fight. And I feel that was lacking. If you're trying to make true boxing fans, because that's what they're saying they're doing. They're trying to reinvent boxing. They're trying to bring boxing back. They say these things. Then I think to some extent you do have to teach people about the actual game of boxing, the actual sport of boxing, and there needs to be more. Hey, this is why someone does this. To see this, like that's why this isn't working in this position, and there was none of that. Well, there was some, but there was little to none of that.
Yeah,
and
it felt more like they were trying to bring like the young person MMA hype beast, Jake Paul, like that exact style to the product, as opposed to making it a sporting event.
And I do think that is not the worst line of thought. I think that could be beneficial to gaining more fans and stuff like that. I just think they need to do this. This is in my opinion. I think they need to have one person there that is really, really good at breaking down a fight, an expert and of boxing, right? One person right there that could also hang with the rest of their crew, but could also reel it back in when the fights are happening and can explain to people in an interesting way what's happening, and let the other people kind of be the color commentary people and make it like a fun, entertaining environment. And I think that's what it was lacking. I think if they had that, it would have made the fights way better, even though a lot of the fights, like they didn't have top profile boxers. But I think it could make them more enjoyable, more entertaining to watch. And because I think when you start to learn and you start seeing stuff, it makes the experience a little better.
Yeah, I would completely agree.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if the fight was fixed. We have to. I mean, everyone says that the fight isn't fixed. Ben Askren, Jake Paul, whatever. But of course, they have to say that. Just because they say it doesn't mean it's what I mean. Doesn't mean it's true. But at the end of the day, we got to take it, and whoever he fights next, we'll see what happens. My only thing is this: he doesn't seem to want to fight an actual boxer. He keeps on calling out non-boxers. he won't call out real boxers. I haven't really seen it that much. He called out Daniel Cormier, Conor McGregor, Dylan Dennis, Nate Diaz. I do think that if he somehow fought Conor McGregor, that would make more sense because I believe Conor had a little bit of an amateur boxing career. So, I mean, then it would be more like, okay, someone who has more experience boxing is fighting him, But at the end of the day, that's still not a boxer.
Like that, there would be a minor amount of credibility there at least.
Yes, something where it's, okay, this person has dedicated a lot of time to boxing, and so maybe it makes it seem like, you're a real professional boxer at that point. But I want to see him fight a real boxer. That's what I want to see, and then I will definitely say, you know what? You're a real boxer. You're willing to take the risk of getting knocked out, getting slept by someone who's probably been doing this since they were a child. Because I do believe when you're boxing, there's these instincts that if you're doing it from when you're a child, that they become innate to you. The way you slip a punch, the way you slip a jab, and then you give them a hook to the body. Those things don't come that quickly. But when you're doing it from when you're a child, it's a lot easier. That's the things that Jake Paul's fighting, the people he's fighting, those things they don't have.
Yeah, honestly, Jake Paul probably has more of those instincts than the people he's been fighting, because he has been training in boxing for a few years now.
Yes, he has been, and he probably does. But to the level of someone who's around his age, but who has been doing it for maybe 8 years. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like they've been doing it since they were kids. That's one thing, and that's where I don't know if he's a real. That's why I don't like saying he's a real boxer, just because there are people that have been training almost their whole lives since they were children, like I've stated, and I want to see him fight one of those people, because if you can beat one of those people, then yes, you are a bona fide professional boxer, and people have to take you seriously. But until you do that, then who should take you seriously? No one.
Yeah,
no one
exactly.
should take you seriously as a boxer. I that's just how I feel, because those people are at such a different level to people that just box for 3 months or 2 months and then get into the ring with you when you've been boxing for 3 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's basically all that I have to say on that one. I don't know, is there anything else you would want to say? Because for me, I just think that these fights right now, they're not proving anything.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks for me to say this, but I am now invested in Jake Paul, and I want to see him fight again. If only to see him get completely obliterated, but at the end of the day, I still want to see him. So,
yeah, I wonder who his next opponent's going to be. It'll definitely be someone that he thinks he can beat. I know he makes it seem like he will fight anyone, and he's not afraid of fighting anyone. I do think that the people he's picking to fight, it's pretty calculated at this point. Jake Paul, even though he seems like, to some people, maybe some people see him as like a dummy or something like that, in terms of the business and entertainment aspect of it, he's not, because he could have easily picked someone that was like of a higher level,
right,
and lost, but right now he's saying, well, if I win this fight, and then my next paycheck will be even bigger, my next fight will be even bigger, my next whatever the contract, whatever. So he is smart, business sense, and so we'll see what happens. I wonder who he'll fight next. There's a lot of people apparently that are interested.
It's all about that money.
Yeah, and I think that's mostly why they're interested. But, yes, you want to get into the draft trades?
Yes, moving on to the NFL.
All right, what do you want to talk about first?
I would like to start actually with the Sam Darnold trade to the Carolina Panthers.
Okay, what do you think about that trade?
I was quite confused when the news broke.
Okay.
And the reason for that is I've been doing a lot of, mock draft research, looking at what teams need what positions, that kind of stuff. And there's been a big debate up until that Darnold trade about whether or not the Panthers thought they needed a quarterback. Well, obviously, we know now they did think they needed a quarterback, which makes it so strange to me that they decided the one they wanted was Sam Darnold. And I'm not doing that thing where I'm just like calling Darnold trash and writing him off, saying he's not going to get anywhere, because I don't necessarily believe that. But the reason the trade was so strange to me is that if you feel you need a quarterback, you have the number 8 pick in the draft. Why? There has to be somebody at pick number 8 that they are so in love with that they are willing to forego quarterback. And I just don't see that, because now they're sitting with a combination of Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold, who are basically the same level of talent in my eyes at this point. So I don't know that they made an upgrade. So whoever they pick at number 8, they better turn out to be really good.
Maybe the Panthers. I would assume that they think that Sam Darnold is a lot better at Teddy Bridgewater if they made this decision. I know that sounds weird, but what if they think to themselves this, and just hear me out on this one. Now, what if they think there's a chance that it was just the team and he's a lot better than what he's looked like, What if they think that? Now, okay, that's one thing. Now, on the other hand, what if in the back of their head they say, hey, if it wasn't the team and it's him, maybe we still have a good first round pick next season and we could draft a quarterback if need be. I know that sounds like a weird thought process to have, but it's just something that popped up into my head. Like, I could see someone talking themselves into an idea like that.
Oh, for sure. Like, teams talk themselves into bad decisions all the time. And we know, like just from observation over the past few years, that NFL teams are far more content to ride with a mediocre quarterback than they analytically should be. Like, if you don't have a Pro Bowl level quarterback, you are not winning. It's just a fact. And it's all about ceiling, not floor, when it comes to the quarterback position, in my eyes at least. So
no, I see what you're saying.
And my view of quarterback development is that when a quarterback gets drafted, they basically have like 2 years, 3 if they're lucky, to start showing their stuff before it's reasonable to write them off. And maybe Sam Darnold just got screwed because the Jets are a terrible organization. Maybe if he went to a different team, he would have been a good quarterback. But so it's tough to say, because maybe he had the potential to be a good quarterback, but I think that potential is almost gone at this point through no fault of his own, or let's say through very little fault of his own.
What I do want to add is, there are cases where some quarterbacks, they start becoming a better quarterback later in their career, like Ryan Tannehill.
I hear that a lot, and I don't know that I agree, because when Tannehill was in Miami, the narrative that I was privy to was that Tannehill was average, and it was sure, there were some people that thought Tannehill was bad. I think they just weren't looking hard enough. But the way I saw Tannehill specifically was that he was perfectly fine, and he actually did need a change of scenery, and he did meet that minimum threshold of a quarterback to be good in his first few years. And other than Tannehill, I don't know that there have been quarterbacks recently that have become good after 2-3 years of being garbage.
Yeah, no, there's not a lot. I was just saying, that I was just saying, that there are some people that can make it past those, because I agree with you. I think that after 3 years, maybe 4, you really know who's who in terms of the quarterback position.
Right.
But I mean, at the end of the day too, it is hard because Sam Darnold is only 23, He is kind of young, that's literally my age. It's like I couldn't imagine being a NFL quarterback right now, but I don't think he's the best player in the world, but I honestly don't know. The Jets have been awful. And I know he's been definitely a part of that, but I just don't think that they've helped him in any way.
As much as it is on positional coaches and the head coach, who, let's be honest, he's had a garbage head coach. As much as it is on them to pull the potential out of him, he still plays a part in actually doing the work.
Oh yeah. I mean, there is a part in coaching always matters, but also like the player matters, I would say more. A lot of times, well, I guess here's the thing. Would you rather have Tom Brady on your team or Bill Belichick?
That's the age-old question of the past 20 years, isn't it?
And like a lot of people would say now Tom Brady, because look at what just happened. And what is he, like 43 years old? So at the end of the day, I think the player is definitely more to blame for their lack of development than the coach is. But the coach does play a factor if they're really, really bad. If a coach is really, really bad and all the offensive schemes are really, really bad, and the coach is calling all these plays that don't help the player out at all, then at some point, what are you gonna do? If you have no weapons around you, what are you gonna do? So I feel for Sam Darnold in a sense. That's why, honestly, I'm genuinely confused. I don't think he's great, but I think there's a chance that he could be good. Under the right circumstances. I just feel like if playing for the Jets seems like you're doomed.
Basically, yeah. So it seems like Zach Wilson is going to be the guy to go to the Jets in this draft. And as much as I actually do like Zach Wilson, like I wouldn't want, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I like Zach Wilson, but like my mind instantly starts to write him off, like when I think of him as
he's
a
going
member
to
of
the
the
Jets.
And that's completely unfair. Because like I think Zach Wilson is a good quarterback. He's still my number 3, but like that's still very good. So it's technically not fair for my brain to say Zach Wilson's going to be garbage because he's on the Jets. Like that's not directly how it works, but that's the reputation they've earned.
Yeah, I know, and it sucks for Zach Wilson. I mean, that's what people think when quarterbacks go to the Bears too. I mean, it's if you're a quarterback, you go to the Bears, everyone's like, well, they're instantly going to be bad because the Bears picked them. They can't develop anybody. And the thing with the Bears is that there have been times where the Bears have had weapons and the quarterbacks have still been bad.
Yeah.
If Sam Darnold was on the Bears and he was like he played how he played, I think it'd be pretty safe to say, that he's bad. But I think the Jets are, like in terms of weapon wise, like weaponry, it makes it harder to tell.
Right. And at least on the Panthers now, if Sam Darnold is in fact the starting quarterback, he'll have some weapons because their offense has been pretty good past few years.
So I also just wanted to inform you that Sports Illustrated, it's not anything crazy, but apparently the Broncos are predicted to take Teddy Bridgewater during the draft this season. So to trade for him somehow.
That'd be interesting because there's a lot of quarterback discussion being had in terms of this draft.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know exactly what they would have to trade for that. What do you think? What, a 3rd round pick maybe?
Let's think of it this way. Darnold went for, I believe, a 2nd, a 4th, and a 6th. So if you were to somehow translate that to Teddy Bridgewater, the highest pick would have to be a 3rd.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know because people are debating whether or not
maybe a 3rd and a 6th.
Yeah, like that would make perfect sense to me because people are debating lately whether or not the Broncos even want a quarterback because we know some people in the organization still really like Drew Lock, but there are other people in the organization and many like NFL analysts, mock drafters, all that stuff, that are, in my opinion, aware of the correct fact that you need to move on from Drew Lock. So some people have them taking, Trey Lance at pick 9, Mac Jones at pick 9, and others have them. I'm trying to think of what positions the Broncos need. Linebacker.
Maybe I think they need some linemen.
Yeah.
I would think as well. Yeah, I think they definitely need defensive help too, though.
If they were to roll with Teddy Bridgewater, pick a top tier defensive player at number 9, I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah. You wait. What? Would you? Sorry, I just missed you. What'd you say for at number 9?
Defensive player. I'm looking at linebackers mostly, but there's a lot of good options on the defensive side of the ball.
Oh yeah, I think either lineman or a defensive player, a linebacker would definitely be good. There's definitely some good options in this draft. I mean, Micah Parsons, if I would say would be there, maybe not, but I would say if they could get him, then that would definitely help their defense.
Right.
So, yeah, man, I think that trade would definitely be very interesting, and it might help the Bears get a better quarterback, maybe. So I'm down for it. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of quarterbacks in this draft, I think we ought to move on to another one of those big trades that happened over this past month. And I'm looking at the trade between the Dolphins and the 49ers.
Yeah. The 49ers definitely said that they're getting a quarterback.
Yes.
Definitely. Now, I think it's Justin Fields. However, a lot of mock drafts are saying that it's Mac Jones for some reason. I don't really know why, but that's just what I've been seeing.
Well, I'm going to tell you what I think about the Mac Jones stuff. And because it seems to me like all of the smoke around Mac Jones is not coming from the 49ers whatsoever. As far as I'm aware, nobody from the 49ers has said anything about who they like, be it Mac Jones, Justin Fields, technically Zach Wilson. Nobody from the organization has said anything about them. And you can trace the Mac Jones speculation back to just some random San Francisco media analyst, I guess, who said, Mac Jones fits the mold of the quarterbacks that Kyle Shanahan has liked in the past. And national media took that and ran with it with no other sources from the 49ers themselves.
I actually now I know I do remember people saying that, because I've heard so many people say, well, the 49ers haven't liked mobile quarterbacks all that much, and this and that, I guess, and that's not something that they're that interested in. But that doesn't mean that they can't change their thought process.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Because let's look at the Ravens with Lamar Jackson. Harbaugh completely changed up his coaching style, his entire offensive playbook when he moved from Joe Flacco to Lamar Jackson. Why wouldn't Kyle Shanahan do the same thing,
Yeah. I like Justin Fields more than Mac Jones personally. So I think that they should draft Justin Fields, but yeah, I definitely think that seems so possible. I don't understand why I don't know, but that's how the media works, I guess when you think about it, they try to create storylines for everything because that's what they're supposed to do. And so if that's the bit of information that they have, and that'll hopefully make people more interested and make people feel like, yeah, I know what's going to happen, then they're going to roll with that because people love that feeling of knowing things.
and being right too.
And being right, yeah, because I imagine you feel that for a long time, yeah, I know they're going to get this player. I know they're going to get this player. I know this. And then they get the player, and you're like, well, see? I knew it, and you feel good. And it also sometimes makes you want to root for that player for some reason just because you knew the player was going to get drafted to that team. It's a weird sort of scenario, but I don't know. I have heard so much talk actually of them saying about the mold. But you know what? Like sometimes it hasn't been working for you recently, I guess. Sometimes you got to rear away from that mold and say, you know what, maybe let's try something new.
Right. And to me, it's about talent and ceiling at the quarterback position, like I said. So we all do this when we're talking about like mock draft projections and stuff. Everybody just sort of assumes that the way they view a player is the correct way, because why wouldn't you? That's how the human brain works. So the way I view these two players is that Mac Jones has a pretty low ceiling. Like he could turn out to be totally fine. But I don't think he has like the ceiling of greatness to the extent that we can predict that, because largely we're actually pretty bad at predicting that. But I view Justin Fields as an extremely high ceiling pick.
Yeah.
Who, yes, doesn't fit the Shanahan mold of the past, but if Shanahan is as smart as we view him, he can adapt to talent and wouldn't like shoehorn himself into one style. And it would make no sense to me to trade up from pick number 12, where there's a high likelihood he and the 49ers could have gotten Mac Jones anyway, to move up to guarantee Mac Jones when you're leaving a higher ceiling on the board in Justin Fields.
Yeah, they could have. I guess I would say the only team that might have gotten in the way of that one would maybe be the Denver Broncos.
Maybe, yeah.
But, you know, they could have just traded with the Denver Broncos or something, I guess, or maybe even with the Lions, you know, if that was the case, because the Lions are not going to be taking a quarterback, you know.
Yeah, because like if they do pick Mac Jones at number 3, I will be very surprised, not just because of my own assessment of the quarterbacks, but because of how strongly their assessment of Mac Jones must be. Because if they take Mac Jones, they are truly, truly so in love with him, because they moved up from 12 to 3 for 2 first-round picks. They traded away their first in 2022 and 2023 to get either Justin Fields or Mac Jones, most likely. You have to love a guy to guarantee him like that.
I don't want to say this. However, when I first saw this, it instantly brought like Mitchell Trubisky to mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm worried for them. You know, I'm not a 49ers fan, but I'm genuinely worried, because if this decision doesn't work, with whatever quarterback you get, it's going to haunt you for seasons and seasons.
Oh, for sure. Like if we're in the timeline where they pick Mac Jones and it is another Trubisky situation, I'll actually be kind of happy, because we'll have another team to point and laugh at.
That's funny. I didn't even think about it from that angle, but you know what? Actually, I hope that it happens. But I actually don't hope that, because that was a bad experience for me. But because the thing is, when that happens, when you trade first round picks and you miss, you're going to be feeling that for the next few seasons, because if you have a bad team, right, then if you just spend one pick on a player like the one you have, all right, well, if you have a bad team, then you can say, okay, you know what, that didn't work out, we'll pick someone to fill that hole the next season, right? Well, you can't do that the next season. So now you got to wait,
because
like 2 years
from
then to make that pick.
Yeah, they spent 3 first-round picks on whoever they take.
Yeah.
That's a lot of picks.
Yeah, that's 3. So actually, it's 3 years that they'd have to wait from the draft on to pick another quarterback, a good quarterback, I guess, because most of them do come from the first round. You know, so
yeah. Oh, dude, the more that sinks in right now, that they just spent 3 first-round picks on this quarterback, I'm falling in love with the way the Dolphins are running themselves right now, because let's look at it from their perspective. They moved down from pick number 3 to pick number 12, picked up 2 first-round picks, and then went back up to pick number 6 and only gave away 1 first-round pick.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Like they are absolutely nailing it.
I know. It's pretty impressive what they did. But that's something you can do when you feel like you have your guy. So they think right now that Tua's their guy, and so they're saying, you know what? We could have potentially drafted a quarterback, right? Obviously, if we don't believe in Tua, but we believe in Tua. So we're gonna go down and just try to build our team to help him be as successful as possible and help our team be as successful as possible. And you can do those types of things when you have your guy. But the thing is, not a lot of teams have their guy that are in this position.
Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the day, they still have to be correct about Tua, which
Yes.
I think they will be. But even if they aren't, they're still at a net positive and first-round picks over the future. So,
Yep.
like long-term decision-making, top tier.
And if the 49ers are bad, I believe they still have the 49ers first-round pick.
Oh, yeah.
You got to think about it that way. Then if the 49ers are bad, then they might have a good pick for next season, even if they're a middle tier team this upcoming season. So that's good for them as well. Like, thinking of this through, like, this was so well thought out that you have to applaud the Miami Dolphins organization.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the trade with the Eagles might not have been the best value, especially when you're comparing it to the one with the 49ers. But if you view it as like a net 3-way trade, the Miami Dolphins made out like bandits here because they're, like I said, sitting with net positive first-round picks and still the number 6 pick in this draft, where there's a lot of talent for them.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, I hope that things work out for the 49ers, but at the end of the day, too, I guess there is a little bit of a silver lining because then people will probably forget about the Mitch Trubisky fiasco for a little bit. Not here in Chicago, but the rest of
Definitely.
the rest of the United States, hopefully. So I will somewhat be looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But
So with regard to the Dolphins at pick number 6, who do you think they're going to take?
I mean, if Kyle Pitts is there, why not? I don't think the receiving core is that bad, So I think that if Kyle Pitts is there, definitely take Kyle Pitts. However, I don't know if he'll be there because, I mean, the Falcons might want him, the Bengals might want him if he's there. So, outside of that, though, there are good wide receiver prospects. So there's a ton of people that I feel could definitely help them out.
I'm very glad that you agree with me on that because if I agree, if Kyle Pitts is there, you can't pass him up. Like he's the most tight end. He's the most hyped tight end prospect I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like every single team would take him if they could. I don't necessarily think the Bengals will because they have more pressing needs. But you're right. The Falcons are very much in play at number 4. If they don't trade down, don't pick a quarterback, or pick the offensive lineman Penei Sewell. Those right now are the options I see for the Falcons. But whoever they leave for the Dolphins can't miss. It's either going to be Kyle Pitts, Penei Sewell, or one of those top wide receivers, probably Jamar Chase.
Yeah, probably. I do think, and I've been thinking this for a while, so I didn't even know why I didn't bring it up, but I do think that Penei Sewell might be the person that the Bengals take, just because I guess it could go either way in terms of Falcons and the Bengals, because they both really need to help in terms of protection of their quarterback. But if he's there for the Bengals, actually, I think the Bengals should take Penei Sewell, just because Joe Burrows was hit way too much last season, so right. I think he'll be a far more effective quarterback if he's not getting it all the time. Which is the case for most quarterbacks. But I think he's actually, personally, I really like him a lot. I think he's a quarterback that if he's protected, he can make something out of nothing a little bit. So that maybe should be the top priority for them. But with that being said, then Kyle Pitts could still go, to the Falcons. But at the end of the day, they have Jamar Chase there, and that would be pretty cool for them to get as well in terms of the Dolphins.
Yeah, with regard to the Bengals, most people would like them to take Sewell, I think, at number 5. But lately, all the chatter from the Cincinnati media is that the team actually wants to take Jamar Chase because he and Joe Burrow played together at LSU, and that I think that would be really cool. I think it's probably not the correct long-term decision because I view offensive line as far more of a need than wide receiver.
Yeah, me too.
But with regard to the Dolphins, truly they cannot miss here.
Yeah, there's so much talent. I feel that they're in such a good position to really make their team just kind of whole. Hopefully that happens. I think it'd be interesting to see the Dolphins be a good team because really, we saw glimpses of that last season, I guess. I haven't really seen that in my whole life, so I think it'd just be interesting to see the Miami Dolphins be good. I was gonna say a Miami team be good, but I was like, no, I definitely saw that one. No, I definitely witnessed the Heat for a decent amount of time. But yeah, I think it'd be really good. Just a question, though. I want your opinion on this one. Who do you think the Eagles will get with the 12th pick? Because I'm kind of torn a little bit on that one. I don't know, but I have an opinion. I think they really need an offensive lineman. Now, I feel I've seen the media say a lot of stuff about wide receiver and corner and stuff like that, but I just want to tell you this. Okay, so the Eagles gave up 65 sacks last season, right? That's 15 more than the next team.
Oh, Lord.
So that's the Washington football team and the New York Giants and the Texans. Okay. So that's 15 more. Now, a lot of people are saying that, they should maybe go corner to help their defense or linebacker if linebacker's there, but and I could see those arguments, but mostly for me, I think wide receiver is pretty important for them because I've heard so much complaining last season about how they had no receivers, no help. I could see that one, but I think they have to go offensive lineman. But maybe wide receiver is where I'm torn. But I don't know. Defense wise, you got to protect your quarterback. I feel like that comes first. But I don't know. What do you think?
My philosophy on drafting offensive linemen is it is probably never the wrong decision to draft an offensive lineman. And I mean literally never, even if you have the best offensive line, you still need more offensive linemen. So if they were to do that, I couldn't really knock it. But based on the research I've been doing, it seems like the prevailing wisdom is that people want them to take a wide receiver. In which case, if one of those top 3 receivers are still there, those receivers being Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, if one of those 3 are available for Philadelphia, I think both Smith and Waddle, the more likely ones, I think they're both good fits for them. And I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know, like, let's put it this way. The Eagles need so many good players at so many positions that they can't really mess up here because they
could mess up if they pick the wrong one.
Well, yeah. They need offensive linemen. They need wide receiver. They need cornerback. They need linebacker. So it's really tough to decide what you need most.
Yeah, I could see that argument, but I just think now I don't know if they actually like Jalen Hurts, I'm going to be honest, because they keep on saying that he has to fight for his starting role and everything, so maybe that's why they don't really care about protecting him all that much. I think that's pretty bogus, But because 65 sacks is, that's way too much. You're asking for your quarterback to get injured. But what I will say, I get the wide receiver talks is just, and maybe they could talk themselves into, well, Jalen Hurts is a more mobile quarterback, so, maybe we can hold off on the offensive lineman stuff, but I don't know. I mean, if you want to be competitive, then I think you have to let your quarterback play in a safe environment, I guess. That's the best way I feel like I could put it. Be protected and have time to see a play develop and give the wide receivers time to actually create separation. Because if your quarterback's getting attacked immediately, then you're not going to get anywhere. The offense isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to be an issue. So that, at least in my opinion, so I feel like they really should get an offensive lineman. To get a wide receiver, I understand, but to me, if they don't get an offensive lineman, I think that they don't really like Jalen Hurts that much.
That's very fair. If I had to put money on it right now, I would predict that they go wide receiver.
Well, then we will find out. But all right, you want to get into the Bulls?
And that's all I have to say about the Bulls.
Yeah, Jack doesn't really want to get into the Bulls per se, but but he's going to, because this is a show we're doing, and we have to talk about it because we said we will. We said we would, so we're doing it. But I don't want to talk about the Bulls either. To be honest with you, I do a little bit, because I think to myself, this needs to be said, But in terms
yes,
of...
many things need to be said.
Yeah, but in terms of, will it make me happy? Like, will it fulfill those needs for me? Probably not. I mean, maybe in a sense where if we talk about the Bulls, then I can get it out of my system, and then I can feel better, because like I understand that someone else feels my pain, and I'm like, this is good. I'm not the only one. So maybe in that sense, it's good that we talk about the Bulls.
So tell me about your pain, Brandon.
Okay, Patrick Williams has so much to learn defensively. It hurts me sometimes. And I know I'm being hard on him, right? I say it all the time. He's so young. Like, what is he, like 19 years old?
Yes.
Okay, I get it. But dude, he is so lost defensively at times. I can't handle it. He chooses to help people on defense, and a lot of times before I would be mad, right, when I was watching the Bulls like years ago, because no one would help people out. The help D was so bad, like no one would ever help. But in this Bulls team, everyone wants to help all the time, and let me tell you, help defense cannot be given all the time, because then you are leaving so many people open. And when there's a screen set, he doesn't know whether to go run after the guy or to take the person that was actually setting the screen, like to guard them instead. He has no clue what to do. And then when he was watching the ball, if the player that he's guarding doesn't have the ball and he's looking at someone else, he will just stare down that person. And the person will, while he's facing the player, say they're on the perimeter, he's facing the player with the ball, and they're on the other side of the court, he will not pay attention at all to the player that he is guarding. So much, so many times I've seen it, and they get wide open, and then they'll make a three right behind him, or not behind him anymore because they left. But I just think to myself, how does this keep on happening to you, man? You are a professional basketball player. What is going on here? That just seems so simple to me, that you want to see what's happening with the ball, but you can't forget your assignment. And the Bulls players lose focus so much on defense. The focus, it's not there. They need to be persistent on defense, and they're just not.
That was quite the rant there. Did that feel good?
It hurt me, Jack. I'm not gonna lie. I had to get it out.
Yeah, I mean,
but
You're absolutely right. My big issue with the Bulls since the All-Star since the trade, the Vucevic trade, my issue is the effort and the attention, which you're right is not there. So it's been disappointing to watch my hope just sort of drain over the past few weeks because you probably remember I've been saying the Bulls need to finish at least 500, finish at least at the 6th seed. And after the Vucevic trade, I really thought that's where we were going because we clearly needed help and we seemed to get it. But since that trade, let me look at the Bulls' record since then. Since that trade, it looks like we are 5-10, and that just won't do for a team that was supposed to make the 6th seed.
All I'm trying to say is this, though. I put none of the blame on Vucevic at all. None of it.
100%.
That trade, I will say, was good for the Bulls. It was a good trade.
Very much so.
But for some reason, they gained this player that is so good, and they run the offense through this player, and he's so consistent. He can do whatever you want a big man to do. He can do it. He can shoot from the post. He knows how to use his body. He can shoot the three. He has a nice mid-range game, and he finds open people. He will kick it out. He will pass the ball. He will get assists, and he gets a decent amount of rebounds. So nothing bad to say with him. I just want to say that I really like the guy, but the Bulls are so dependent on him in almost every offensive possession that he's out in the court. It's like they have to give him the ball at least once, and I get it. They're running the offense through him, but to me, it looks like the Bulls have a bunch of unconfident offensive players on the floor at all times.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. In the 14 games since the Vucevic trade, Vucevic is averaging. Let me see here. In 14 games, Vuce is averaging 23 points, 10 rebounds, and 3.5 assists. And he, aside when he's playing, obviously, is the only guy you can rely on every single day.
Yeah, and I would say even more so, you could rely on him a lot more than you can on Zach LaVine. And I'm not saying that because Zach is on like COVID protocol and everything like that. I'm not saying that. But for that reason, I'm just saying that even when he's been on the floor, I feel like Vooch has been a little bit more consistent because there are some games where Zach doesn't score as much as I feel like he could score, But it's also I feel like because Zach feels like he has to take risks, like in order for the Bulls to be successful. So I get it. But with Vooch, it just seems like he's automatic. His moves they're pretty set. When he takes a shot, when he's deciding to do what he needs to do with the ball, it seems like he's always making really good decisions.
Yeah, I would agree. I think with regards to Zach, I'm trying to be sympathetic towards his slump because he was coming off an ankle injury before he headed into the COVID protocol, and like you could clearly see that the ankle injury was still affecting him. So he was shooting poorly. Let's put it plainly. He was shooting pretty bad for quite a while there. And I'm saying this even during that stretch, he still put up a 50-point game. But I think when he comes back, if he's fully healthy, I think he'll redeem himself because I'm trying to be sympathetic to basically everybody on the team. Like, I'm defending Zach right now. My instinct is to defend Patrick Williams. He's only 19. My instinct is to defend Larry Markkinen. So I'm struggling with like where to direct my disappointment with the Bulls because like I just don't know who to blame because they're good players. They should be winning.
I could tell you who not to blame. Thaddeus Young, not to blame.
Thad Young, baby.
Vucevic, not to blame. Zach LaVine, not to blame. I would say even Troy Brown, not to blame. Those players, they're smart players. They play their roles. They do what they need to do. There's a lot of players on this Bull team. Oh yeah, and Daniel Tice. There's a lot of players on this Bulls team. They know what they need to do, and there's a lot of players on this Bulls team that don't, and they really need to learn, like fundamentally, what to do when you're on the basketball court, like what things to look out for, what you need to be focused on, like those are things that I think that they miss, that they get lost on the court, it looks like at times. Like, how do you lose your defender? Like, your defender. How do you, as a defender, how do you lose the guy you're supposed to be guarding so easily?
I get what you're saying, but let's trying to look at it objectively. If we can't blame Zach, we can't blame Vucevic, we can't blame Thaddeus Young, we can't blame Daniel Tice. How many more minutes of a game can we really point at and blame? Because like those four guys eat up a ton of minutes, so they're still on the floor when we're losing.
Yeah, but in terms of Thaddeus Young, he gets a decent amount of minutes, but he doesn't play 30 minutes a game.
Yeah, not as much as he did. Yeah.
Yeah, he plays like around 20, sometimes less. And Daniel Tice, even though he has been playing a lot recently, when everyone's healthy, he'll probably be playing around maybe 20 or under that as well. So there's a lot of time where Lowry's playing. There's a lot of time where Kobe's playing. And you know me, I like Kobe White. I think he could potentially become something. But he has to be more focused. He has to stop making these little mistakes that turn into big ones, like turning the ball over. It's just, my thing is, the reason why I keep on talking about defense is just the Bulls, they don't do the little things that you're supposed to do, and that's what's becoming an issue. The Bulls could have won some of these games if they were just a little bit more attentive, like on the defensive side of the ball, like that's where my issues are. And also too, when the Bulls are moving the ball and they're moving off the ball a lot offensively, they're playing really well, right? But I've seen so many possessions where guys get set in their positions and then they just don't move. And I think to myself, like, what play are you trying to create? How are you trying to help the team right now? What are you, like, you're not even trying to score. You're saying, okay, the person who has the ball, they'll figure it out. And no, or we'll just dump it off to Vooch, and then they'll have to worry about him, and hopefully someone will be open. Maybe they'll double him, and then we'll take a shot. It's like, no, make a play for yourself. So,
which admittedly, dumping it off to Vooch does work.
It does work. I know. I know. That's admittedly. Yeah, it does work. I'm not, but but the thing is though, you can't get better as a team if that's your only,
Right, yeah.
If that's your only option. If that's your only viable option. Obviously it's not true because you have Zach LaVine as well. But it would be so much better if the team just had better ball movement, and then they also had Vooch, and they also had Zach LaVine, because that would make them so much better and so much more of a threat than for teams to go, okay, we just need to worry about this guy.
Yeah, it's so strange. Yeah, like I'm legitimately like dealing with cognitive dissonance about this, because when I look at the players individually, like I said, like I view them all as good, positive players. Like Kobe White, I really like him, and my instinct is to look at his strengths, and try to view what he brings to the team as a positive. But and it's the same thing with Lowry. He has strengths. I try to view him positively. Thomas Satoransky, same thing. But it's just not meshing. Like, they're all good at individual things, but they're not good together.
Yes, and they are good at individual things. I think the main issue, like I said it already, but another issue, I guess, because you already know what I'll say if you've been listening this far, but is just the consistency as well. Like Kobe White, over the past 3 games, he had a really good game. I think one game he scored 27 points, right? He had a good game.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the games, not so good. I'm not saying for him to score 27 points every game. I'm just saying you got to play your part every single game. There needs to be some level of consistency.
When Levine's not there, he's our primary scoring guard.
And if he's not scoring, then the Bulls are going to have a really tough time. But I'm kind of getting a little upset just because, and I don't know. You know how the Bulls like almost never play Ryan Arcidiacono?
Yeah.
And I know he's not the most exciting guy to watch, whatever. I mean, he makes a bunch of crazy plays, I feel like, when he's on the court because he's trying really hard. I just wish that the other Bulls players could kind of take a note from him, Like they look at him and say, you know what? This guy, I wish he played a little bit more. But this guy, he is always doing what he's supposed to be doing when he's on the court. Like there was this play I saw in one of the games where Arcidiacono brings the ball up the court, right? Passes it to Thad Young, and he's Thaddeus Young. He's behind the 3-point line, and then he immediately after he passes the ball sets a screen for Troy Brown, creates separation for Troy Brown. And then Thaddeus Young sees this, passes the ball to Troy Brown, and then Thaddeus Young creates another screen to create even more separation for Troy Brown. Troy Brown pulls up for a mid-range jumper, sinks it. Now, I understand why they don't play Ryan Arcidiacono more. He's not a part of the future. That's what I think they're getting at, But those are the types of plays that the other players should be doing, where he goes, okay, he set that up. He saw where Troy Brown was, and you know what I mean? He set up the play, and Thad Young is also a smart player, and he saw, and then they set it up so they could be a lot of separation, so Troy Brown could have an easy pull-up, and just, that's it, A lot of the other Bulls players, I think, don't think that way, though. And this is where I'm kind of getting a little bit of an issue, is where you have to think ahead and you have to think about how to create opportunities for yourself and for the players around you. And I think that's the issue where I have with the team a little bit right now.
Yeah, I think Ryan Arcidiacono is sort of the last holdover aside from Levine and Markkanen. He's the last holdover from the 2017, 2018 teams, I think, where we were just straight up garbage and we were playing guys for 30 minutes that wouldn't be getting minutes on other real NBA teams at all. And it was Ryan Arcidiacono and David Nwaba. They were the hustle guys on those teams. Stacey King said it all the time, looking like 5 David Nwabas out there. And it's the same with Archie, because like you said, he makes the plays. He is the effort. And looking at Garrett Temple, Thomas Satoransky, they're obviously bigger guys than Archie, but are they putting in the same effort? I don't think so.
That's where my issue is a little bit, right? Because Thomas Satoransky, he's also a smart player, right? But they give him a bunch of minutes, and I think it's honestly just because he's taller. And Arcidiacono actually isn't that short. He looks short, but I believe he's 6'3". That's actually not that bad for a point guard, like in terms of height wise. But I feel like he makes plays.
Build wise, he is still a pretty small guy.
Yes, build wise, right? But he does make plays for his teammates, and I think this is what the Bulls are missing. They're missing a player that will make plays for their teammates. Will see something and go, you know what? It's not about me. You know what I mean? It's about just us scoring. It's about us doing the right thing. And that's what we're missing. That's the thing we're missing, I think. And I don't know if you can. I believe you can teach that, I believe you can. But it just seems like there hasn't been that much change in that department over the year.
Which sucks, because this was supposed to be the year. Like I've even when the Bulls have been bad the past few years, I've still enjoyed watching them because I was waiting for the year we would become real, and that was this year. But I'm looking at the standings now. The Bulls lost today. We're recording this on Wednesday, the 21st. The Bulls lost today. the Wizards won, and the Raptors also won. So now we're the 12th seed. We're not even in the play-in. And it's just
Disappointing.
It's so disappointing because we've gained an all-star center. We've made legitimate moves in other positions as well. But we're exactly where we were. There's been no change in the outcome. I don't get it.
Yeah. I don't get it either. I think there's a big chemistry issue on the Bulls. And it honestly it's very disappointing. And I think these are things, though. The good thing is that I think that a lot of the Bulls' problems are fixable.
Yes.
I just think that because like the thing is though, doing what I was talking about that Ryan Arcidiacono does, I understand why he's not getting minutes. Like you said, he's not really part of this team's plan. You know, he'll probably be gone. So even if you think that he's good, if you don't think that he's a part of your future, probably not going to play him. You know, and at the end of the day, that's probably what's going on. But I do think the things that he does well are teachable. Maybe not the, taking a charge and stuff like that, but setting up screens and moving. I think you can teach, like moving off the ball. I think you can teach those things. I just think that it might be too late in the season for the Bulls to get the chemistry they need. I just don't think it's gonna be possible unless it's really really late in the season, which it kind of already is.
Yeah, I mean, like technically, even though we are the 12th seed at this moment, like the play-in is still a very realistic outcome. It sucks that the teams all around us are winning so much lately. Like the Wizards are 8-2 in their last 10. I did not see that coming. The Pacers are still winning. The Hornets, Raptors, they're all winning while we're losing. So if those tides change just a little bit, we make the 10th seed, I'll accept that. I won't view the season as a success with the 10th seed, regardless of whether or not we actually win the play-in. But that is the bare minimum I hope to see from this season.
Yeah, me too. And I just really think that the Bulls are like talent-wise, I agree with you. I think they're more capable than what they're showing. But you said it earlier. I've said it. It's a focus issue. It really is. When you watch the games, some of the plays that aren't made are shocking.
Yeah, right. Like every fan base says that their team should be better than they are when things aren't going well. But I would not have said that last year, the year before. At those times, I would have said, the Bulls are as bad as they should be. But that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, we all thought that. It's like 100%. Here's the thing: is like you would have talked to us about the Bulls last season, we would have all been very sad.
But we wouldn't necessarily have been disappointed because being bad was kind of the expectation.
Yes, I mean 100%. But this season, it seemed like there were things to build on. I do think that Patrick Williams still, even though, I kind of bashed him instantly when we talked about the Bulls, I do think he will become a good player. I just think there's a lot for him to learn, and I just wanted to really express that.
Yeah, it's extremely fair to criticize him in the short term because he's still on the floor, he's still a starter, he's still getting a lot of minutes, and you would ideally want to see him be doing well now.
Yeah. He needs to become more aggressive though. He really does. He does not take enough shots.
He still has those games where he's just not a factor. Like even if he's not outright losing us the game, he's just not really there.
And it's hard for like when you have a player on the court and it feels like, what are you doing offensively?
Right.
And here's the thing, for those games where he's just not shooting and he's also blowing defensive assignments, you know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to say, you know what? He's growing, he's this, he's that, because when you're having a bad game offensively, the least you can hope from someone is for them to go all out on the defensive side. because hey, I'm not making my shots right now. I'm not finding my shots. I really need to focus in on this thing because I'm not doing this well right now. But sadly, sometimes he doesn't even do that, and so that's why it makes it hard to watch, and it makes it hard to not say something, which is why I'm saying something. Because you can't just let that go by. Yeah, he's young, but he's also still a professional athlete that's a starter. And I get why he's a starter, because you're trying to have him grow. But I don't know, man. Maybe some time on the bench would help him a little bit too. So, you never know. Just to be like, you're not just given, you know what I mean, a starting role. You have to be aggressive. You have to assert yourself, because to some extent, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
It would be fair, yeah. I just don't think that's the route that the Bulls have been wanting to take with the young guys. It took them a very long time to move Markkanen to the bench when he wasn't performing. They moved Kobe to the bench. Maybe they moved him at the right time. They didn't wait that long for him. But it seems like their philosophy is that you want to put your effort behind the guys that are your future and give them the chance to either succeed or fail.
Yeah. Maybe they should start just... I think that's the thing, too, at the Bulls. I don't even think they run that many plays, which I kind of get because it is a new team, at this point. So maybe it wouldn't be that simple to run plays right now. But I think they do need to draw up some more plays for Patrick Williams, just so that way he starts getting a little bit more confident in himself, and starts actually forcing him to take over. Like, this is what you need to do right now. A lot of times when he even shoots, it's like, oh, he's wide open, and then they pass him the ball or something, and then he just shoots, and then he misses because he's not that good of a three-point shooter. But when he's driving to the basket, he does really well. He just doesn't do it that frequently,
right?
Which I feel like if he did, he would score a lot more points. He is very good at driving to the basket, and he has a decent mid-range game, but he just doesn't show it enough, and I would like to see him showcase those skills a lot more.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I do just want to say I'm disappointed because I can feel my brain moving to that familiar mode of next year is the year. Like that's where my brain is. Like without actively like trying to dispute that, my brain says, this year's over. We got all the young potential. Let's wait for next year. And I don't want to be doing that. This is the year. Like I said, 10th seed in the play-in at the absolute minimum is my expectation.
Yeah, and hopefully in the future we won't be thinking that way. I mean, because if the Bulls are a lot better in the future, then we'll be thinking, no, a championship is the expectation, which I would like to think one day, which I'd like to have that feeling again, you know? But I haven't had it in a very long time, since like 2011, 2012. But doesn't say... I'm not saying it's not impossible. I'm not saying that it's not in our grasp. I think that there is a way that the Bulls become very successful. And at the end of the day, too, I know if the Bulls don't end up making it to the play-in, and stuff like that, I mean, if they get a good pick, who knows? Maybe they'll be in an even better situation next season. So, because at the end of the day, who knows if they're even going to sign a good free agent? I don't know. But if they have a good draft pick, then maybe the team's
wait a second.
in a far better place.
We don't have our first round pick. We gave it to Orlando.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Never mind. The Bulls have to be good now.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but I guess they did pick up Vooch so that way they could sign someone in free agency. That's what they were talking about. So.
Oh, and...
be a free agent destination.
And one more thing, just to really like drive the bullet of disappointment. I'm looking at the Orlando Magic stats right now, and in 13 games since the trade, Wendell Carter Jr. is playing 28 minutes a game and averaging 14.5 points and 9 rebounds.
I know he's playing. He's playing pretty well.
He's playing like really well for them. Obviously, the expectations for the Magic are so much lower than they are for the Bulls because when you look at, they traded away all three of their top like scorers and relevant players, so their expectations are in the toilet. But despite that, he's playing really well.
But did you see how he played against the Bulls?
That had to feel pretty good.
Yeah, he was playing really well. So as a Bulls fan, I wasn't too happy about it because he looked real good, and I'm thinking, dang. But
I just pulled it up, and against the Bulls, Wendell Carter scored 19 points and grabbed 12 rebounds.
Yep, he was
which
he was in the right spots.
Like he did do that for us sometimes when he was given starter minutes, but he's doing it a lot more for the Magic.
Which is good. Maybe some of that energy I was saying he should get, he should start having more frequently. He'll actually start having a little bit more frequently where he's a little bit more aggressive. And you know what? At the end of the day, I'm still happy with the trade, like I said. And I like Wendell, so I hope he turns into the player that I want him to be. And obviously, this is a little short time span, but he's looking pretty good so far on this new team.
Yeah, like good for him. He's a nice guy. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, me too. But do you want to wrap it up for today?
Yes, I think we should.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. I'm Brandon Ruiz, and I'm here with
Jack Cowart.